Hi everybody. I wanted to do a short primer on how I've used the Arduino platform with regards to building models and controlling electronics. There were some folks on a recent hangout for sci-fi fans and modelers united on our Across the Pond hangout, and there were some questions around what an Arduino is, how it works, why I would choose to use it in modeling rather than going with plain old solid state type electronics. And for me, I think it's just the degree of control and actually the flexibility that you get out of it. And I don't have a deep knowledge of electronics myself, so I was more comfortable with the programming aspects of the Arduino rather than trying to learn the nuts and bolts of some of the electronics I wanted to accomplish. So this is the Arduino Uno, and I'll give you some reasons why I chose this platform, because the reason for that is this is a very modular and changeable solution, and there are more recent Arduinos, and I'll put some links in this video, but there are some more recent Arduinos that have smaller microcontrollers, more functionality built into them, more outputs and more inputs, but the chip is actually soldered into the development platform. So the reason why I use this is because of this modular socket, and because it's very easy to source the Amtel ATmega 328 microprocessor. And these are the microprocessors. You can get them for about $3 to $5 each, depending on how many you buy at a time. These did come from a supplier in China, and they ship pretty cheaply, and you can even find these on Amazon. You don't necessarily have to go through eBay to get these. But as you can see, these are very, you match your pins up, make sure that it's facing the right direction. There's a little notch here to tell you which is the top, and they have the same notch in the microprocessor itself. The other way that this functions, so this is the basic development platform, and I call it development platform because that's what it is. You can actually use this to program chips and put in a bare bones type of configuration to just get the outputs that you need. And that's how I've used it, at least on another project here. But you can see here there's power and USB. It will power itself off of USB when you have it plugged into a computer. And that's where you actually do the programming of this. Primarily C programming. And I'm not really a programmer, but I can understand languages fairly well, and it's very easy to pick up other stuff from the community at large. And I'll put links to the primary communities, mostly the Arduino community that's sanctioned by the manufacturer of this product. Just to give you an idea, this is a development board that I used to figure out how I was going to light my Lost in Space robot. And this guy just sits in here, and you can do you can set up your connections, and really what these are on here are digital and analog type of connections, and then there are inputs over here as well. So you can create an input status with a momentary button push. So I have a lot of these in my shop, these type of momentary press buttons. And these are very good for initiating specific commands, other than your standard on and off switch. And you can do all kinds of interesting things as far as control of LEDs. You can make them twirl or go in series. There's all kinds of tutorials out there that give you good information about what you can do with the Arduino, and actually it's a very good learning process. And it's actually what I did. Up until I would say March is when I really started to play around with electronics, and this one kind of stood out to me at the very beginning, and I spent some time ramping up and understanding it. There's plenty of tutorials online and plenty of people doing things with these types of microprocessors. You know, and I've seen a lot of people in the model building field use something like this. This is just a 555 timer chip with a resistor, and you can tie your little LED in here, and depending on the size of your resistor, you can modulate flashing of an LED at a certain rate. But I prefer to go with this because I have more granular control. I'm not necessarily guessing with this. I mean, you can kind of go up or down with this. But I feel like I have more control and I can do more things. I wouldn't have to build an additional circuit to accomplish what I wanted to do. So I can do my flashing, I can do my timed running lights on an Enterprise or something like that. And in a second I'll show you how I used it with my Lost in Space robot model to do some flashing lights, ramp ups, and just standard LEDs that stay on all the time. So you can see here, this is the model all lit up. You know, the constant on type of state for these lights and these lights. Now in here, there's a blue LED and then another white LED that's mounted in the inside of the for all intents and purposes the laser gun. And what it looks like under the covers here, and things may flash a little bit. And this is just a little base that I put together, kind of as a just a prototype to see what I could do with this. This is my first project I did anything like this with. But what you can see on the inside of this thing, it's kind of a wired up mess. But I have a control board, and with that control board I can push my buttons and I get my ramp up on my lights, and then the flash of the LEDs on the ends. Let's see if we can get a shot of this. So you can see the ramp up and then the flash. Turn the light off here. And all of this was accomplished programmatically. And the other thing that I did with this was to make this a lower cost solution. And I'll go into that here in a second. When I first started working and understanding the Arduino, there's a certain level of investment that you have to take for something like that. So the development platform by itself that comes with this little box is about $30, I would say. So roughly about what we would pay for a lighting kit, maybe a little bit less. But then of course there's the learning curve and all the things that you have to actually do yourself. When you're buying a finished kit, it already works. But the way that I've tried to lower the cost of putting these types of microcontrollers in models is, I already mentioned that this little batch of guys here was, I want to say it was about $20 for the 5, so it was less than $5 a piece. And then, of course, you can get just prototype board, which comes in a lot of kits that you can find on Amazon. And so these sockets are, I would say, maybe a quarter each. And of course, most of us have wires lying around. There are other components here, and I'll post a link to the bare bones Arduino tutorial. It's on the Arduino website, and it was very good at helping you figure out what you needed to do to just get an Arduino and do outputs from it. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. And you can see this is just a standard breadboard. I wanted to get this finished, and I was having some issues doing some solder work on this proto board. So I just left the breadboard in here. I think in future projects I'm gonna be a little bit more diligent about doing this type of soldering and making it work. But so basically you're making connections to the pins on here to certain components, and really the only components that are here are a couple capacitors. This is a voltage regulator that steps voltage down to 5 volts, because that's what this Arduino will run on. And then there's different connections out to some resistors. There's a couple more smaller capacitors, and also there's a timer on here, a crystal. But for the most part, that's really all you need to make this run. So from a component standpoint, it's fairly inexpensive to stand one of these up to put in a model. You figure maybe $10 to $15, I would say, and the flexibility that you get out of it is pretty dramatic, I would say, and well worth it if you can handle the programming part of it. And really, what I've found is there are plenty of snippets of code out there to get you started and get the ideas flowing. I know there are some other members of our group that have gone to people that actually do programming and have them help them out with the C programming language, and help get programs written. Really what I did here was put a couple different things together within my routines to get my ramp up and then the flash. So it's pretty rewarding when you can make it work. I think that my original intention was to put this into an enterprise, and I think I'm still going to go down that path. There are a number of other plugins that you can put into this if you're interested in doing it yourself rather than buying a ready-made kit for lighting, and also you have some flexibility to put some sound in it. I haven't really worked through the ins and outs of a lot of that, but the capability is definitely there. So hopefully this was helpful for giving you a little bit of a primer. I'll try to put as many links in this video as I can to help get you started. And if you have any questions, please feel free to hit me up on the message boards on Google Plus for Sci-Fi Fans and Modelers United, or on Sci-Fi Model Action.